Saint Manuel Gonzalez, also known as the Apostle of the Abandoned Tabernacles, in one of his books he says something very interesting. He says that in his long pastoral work as a priest and later as a bishop, it caught his attention that most people he spoke with were more afraid of Jesus as a friend than Jesus as their final judge. And it's very interesting. Now, it's something he says that at first, it seems to have really no explanation, But he actually deduced some explanations for it that run along this line. In regards to Jesus as judge, we tend to think or imagine him to be far away, far in the sense of time, but even in the sense of the physical sense, right? He is a judge whom one day I'm going to have to encounter, I'm going to have to give an account. But what's far away doesn't really worry us much. Rather, with Jesus as a friend, I have him with me at every moment, and to be faithful to that friendship, to be faithful with that friendship with somebody at every moment is so much harder, and is therefore much more feared. Now, though one's conscience oftentimes burns with the thought of Jesus the judge, saying, okay, I'm going to be good, I'm going to convert, etc., it doesn't have the same effect, as Jesus our friend, whom I have with me daily. I can't willfully procrastinate in his presence in my spiritual life. Therefore, our conscience oftentimes tries to avoid that deep friendship with Christ. We are more afraid of Jesus as a friend than Jesus as our final judge. Because Jesus as a friend is much more personal. There's a story about St. Teresa of Avila. One time she was crossing a river and she fell and hit her knee just really hard, and she had this little dialogue with our Lord, and she said, "Lord, why?" And Jesus said to her, "That's how I treat my friends." And she responded, "Well, that's why you have so few." Kind of funny thing there, but this story really exemplifies what we're talking about, that being with Jesus daily, living in the presence of God, of a living God. And because we're in this Easter season, I want to emphasize that Christ is alive. And it has many demands. It demands love. It demands friendship. Because, oftentimes we want to be more alone, more quote-unquote free. We don't realize that there is no greater freedom than to be with Jesus at all times, right? That is to live in his presence, not only that we live in his presence, in our soul by the life of grace, but to live in accordance with that grace. Because we can't live with Christ in our soul, just by the life of grace, but we have to live consciously of this fact at all times. We have to live with our Lord in our soul, but we need to speak with him. We need to have him present in our judgments and in our thoughts. Saint Manuel Gonzalez, the saint I mentioned earlier, one time he asked a little boy who was preparing for communion whether he loved Jesus a lot, kind of in a kiddish way. And the boy said yes, but that he had promised to love him more when he had more contact with him. And the little boy continued saying that because in order to love him, you have to hang out with him. Really a very simple way of saying that precisely we have to live. If Christ were our next door neighbor, we have to have contact with him. And hopefully we become more and more aware of something that we know and something that we're celebrating in these days of Easter. That Christ is alive. He is alive in our souls by the life of grace, and he wants to be our friend. He is our friend, in fact. That he loved us so much, and he deserves all of our love. And the demand of this friendship is really nothing more than for our own good, for our own happiness here on earth and ultimately in heaven. I would like to end with very, very powerful words from Robert Hugh Benson in his book, The Friendship of Christ. He says, "Little by little, as we go through life, following with 100 infidelities and 1,000 blunders, with open defiances and secret sins, yet following as Peter followed through the glare of the high priest's fire to the gloom of the penitence where Christ's eyes could shine, as we go blinded by our own sorrow to the ecstasy of his joy, thinking to find him dead, hoping to live on a memory, instead of being confident that he is living, and we are looking to the today in which he is even more than yesterday. Little by little, we find that there is no garden where he does not walk, no doors that can shut him out, no country road where our hearts cannot burn in his company. To this friendship with Christ, we also add friendship with Mary. The best way we can be friends of Christ is to become a friend of his mother.